Welcome back to another episode, another year. It's 2009. Welcome back to the Past the Present podcast. I'm your host, Alan the Great. I hope y'all had great New Year's. All the celebration y'all was doing, having fun. Of course, me, when New Year's came in, I'm not going to lie to y'all, I was asleep. I fell asleep early, so, old man. So I didn't bring New Year's in, but we're back again, and we're thankful that y'all made it back with New Year with us, with a new episode of the Past the Present podcast. I'm here with my co-host for today's show, Tynee Tia. Y'all remember her from last year, comedian Tynee Tia. And we remember you already reading the title, the subject, so you know what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about surviving R. Kelly, amongst a bunch of other things. So we're going to get right into the mud, right into the dirt. Tynee Tia, you ready to get into it?
Let's dig right into it.
So, did you see Surviving R. Kelly?
I actually did.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
Whew. And a lot of ladies are going to be mad at me for my opinion.
Here we go. Let's get started.
A lot of ladies are going to be so mad at me for my opinion, but I feel like that these women were not coerced into doing anything that they did not want to do. Mm-hmm. We as people, as people in general, we have our own mind. So you know what's right and wrong. When you're brought up, your parents teach you. I don't care how bad of a parent you are raised with, they still teach you right from wrong. You know what I mean? And at some point you got to think like, it's R. Kelly. I watched R. Kelly's growing up.
Right.
Like it's 1,000 R. Kellys in the hood. So if you're going to prosecute this one man because of the money and the fame and the recognition that he has, then go to all these little small hoods and small neighborhoods and prosecute them then too, because they are doing it too.
It's true. It's a true fact. But let's tackle one thing at a time here. Okay. Let's tackle one thing. So my rebuttal will be if he's dealing with like 14, 15-year-olds. Yeah, they don't really know what's going on. You know, they're very naive to a point. They're not fully developed as far as mentally to make a decision on what they should or shouldn't do. Then you got to think about it too. Being teenagers, you're rebellious. Me and you both was teenagers at one time. Let's go back to like the kind of crazy crap we used to do. So taking that into account, do you still feel the way you do? I mean, think about it. R. Kelly's a predator in this situation. He preyed on young girls who didn't really have, he knew what he was picking for. He was picking fruit from girls that didn't have, strong family backgrounds. He knew they was naive. I always say R. Kelly's kind of illiterate. He wasn't capable of having a conversation, and this is not giving excuses, but he wasn't capable of having a conversation and dealing with older women, so you're preying on these young girls who can't really, you know what I'm saying, hold a conversation, and that they don't need much to keep their attention. The fact that you're famous.
I fully and totally agree. And that's why I agree on the fact of he's like a kid where he doesn't think that what he's doing is wrong. Mm-hmm. Like as of right now, this whole surviving R. Kelly has built his bag up.
Yeah. But a lot of times,
so now he doesn't even think he did anything wrong.
But a lot of streaming sites are cutting ties with him. Like Apple Music is cutting him off, Spotify cutting him off.
It don't matter.
Or it's separating
YouTube ain't giving up on him.
YouTube ain't giving up on nobody.
Exactly.
With that.
And motherfuckers is going on YouTube. With my language, I don't know if we can cut. But people are going on YouTube and they are streaming his music off of there, and he's going to get paid from that.
All right, but let me ask you a question, because this is something I want to talk about. Because when I did the Bill Cosby episode, and overwhelmingly, women stood out and was standing up for fighting for Bill Cosby. Like, they were blaming the women. So, as a woman, I'm going to ask you this question straight up. I got to ask you a question as a woman. How is it that women are defending these predators who are actually preying on women more than dudes are? So, what's the science behind that?
Okay, so let me just tell you this story.
All right, go.
I've never shared this with anyone.
Okay.
I haven't even shared this with my mother.
Okay.
But it's a very deep story. And it's something that plays in my mind. I was 8 years old. I was walking to the store. I lived in the east side of Wilmington. Mm-hmm. And at the time, we had a penny candy store. It was called Betty's.
I remember Betty's.
Yes. Okay. So you remember Betty's. I was going to Bill's, which was right across the street from Betty's. Mm-hmm. And when I was leaving Bill's, mind you, I was 8 years old. But as an 8-year-old little girl, I had a body probably of a 14-year-old girl, which I was naive to know what that meant to men. Right. You know what I mean? So as I'm walking from this store, I'm enjoying my candy. I'm doing things as a little girl.
Right.
A guy called me over to the car and asked me, did I know somebody named Robert? I knew that it was a guy, you know, local drug dealer, who lived up the street, who would be up the street, and his name was Bobby. So I figured, this is who this guy is talking about. Mm. And he said, come here, let me show you a picture of him. So I goes over to his car, and he's playing with himself. He has his private part out, grown man. I'm 8.
Right.
He has his private part out, and he's stroking it. Yes, this is what happened. Listen, I ran. I dropped candy, everything, ran home. You know, as a kid, I hyperventilated once I got home. I tried to process that. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. But let me tell you one thing that did. I never dealt with an older man. Growing up, coming up, going through puberty, starting to like boys and all that stuff, older men was not appeasing to me because that would always play in my head.
So that image was stuck in your head for a long time.
That image was stuck in my head. But you got some young girls out here who would be intrigued by that.
Yeah, be intrigued by attention from older guys because when we were younger, we're going to get back to your story in a second, but when we were younger, a lot of girls in the hood was attracted to the older guy. They was attracted to the drug dealer because it was cool to be with an older guy back in the day because older guys, of course, they had cars and stuff. But at the same time, especially in black neighborhoods, it could understand why we turned a blind eye to R. Kelly for so long because we were used to it. When people are like crying out to age about number, and I'm not making an excuse for R. Kelly in no sort of way, but breaking it down for you, you heard that a lot growing up. You hear that a lot, and it became normal to us. But going back to your story real quick, you said you were 8 years old when this happened. Why did it take so long for you to step up and say something about it, or to speak out about it?
Because I felt like it was just a lesson.
What do you mean?
Just a lesson.
A lesson to what?
A life lesson.
At 8 years old, you felt that way? Not
at 8 years old, but the older I got, the more I dealt with the opposite sex, the more I got my heart broken, the more I experienced real life. I always reflect on that. I could not even tell you what that guy's face looked like. Wow. I wouldn't even know who he was. I didn't take the time to look. I just know that what he was doing in that car scared the shit out of me. Right. You know what I mean? And it wasn't even something that I felt like I didn't have to share with my mom. It was just that I felt like she had her own stuff going on. And he didn't physically touch me. He didn't get a chance. You know what I mean? But granted, I was an afraid little girl because I thought that man was following me. I thought that he was going to, you know what I mean? I thought all kinds of stuff. But after a while, it was just like, growing up, I knew what he was, a pedophile.
Absolutely.
He was definitely a pedophile. And if I would have took the bait, or if I would have felt like that what he was doing in his car was intriguing me, he could have been the next R. Kelly in my hood. And I made a joke. I'm sorry, guys. I made a joke with my cousin when this Surviving R. Kelly thing came out. I was like, that could have been R. Kelly.
Did say name Robert, so yeah.
He did ask for and that's weird.
Which is kind of weird when you put in context of what's going on.
It's so weird.
It's kind of weird. But it's like you was trying to protect your mom in the instance, even at 8 years old, considering the fact that you were saying your mom had stuff going on, you was trying to protect your mom at that situation. So you was trying to protect her at 8 years old from the situation. And the reason to give context on why I asked you a question, why it took you so long, because one of the questions when I did the Bill Cosby episode was, from a lot of women and a lot of people was, well, why did it take them so long to speak out? And even with the R. Kelly thing, it's like, okay, why speak out now? Why are you going to talk about it now? It's like, I try to explain to people, like, you can't tell people when to speak out about something that happened to them. People bury that type of stuff because, one, people ain't going to believe you. And when you put it in the context of R. Kelly, you got to look at it. He was powerful. Yeah. The songs he was making was popular, making tons of people money. I'm sorry, unfortunately, money just overpowers things at times, and people are trying to blind eye to things when they're getting money. So if them women did speak out, even back then when it was happening, what you think they would do? You really think people in the industry, the record labels, want to speak out? And even in your situation, you're an 8-year-old. You're speaking about it as an adult. In certain places, when you try to speak out against something people do, you're often told that you're lying, you're making it up, you imagine it. You get criticized, which only pushes you deeper down. Like, you know what? Or you can feel even embarrassed about it.
But here's the thing. As a kid, I've always had a big imagination. So if I would have brought something like that to my family, they probably would have thought, oh, she's just imagining. Because I had a big imagination. I always thought that I was going to be something different. You know, something big.
Right.
You know, something that's set aside. And my family always thought that it was a crazy thought because as a kid, you're not supposed to be thinking about that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to think. You're not exposed, especially at 8 years old, you're not exposed to that type of stuff. So you don't really understand somebody, you know, a dude fondling himself or playing with himself. You don't really understand what's going on here. At 8 years old, you're not really having those conversations about the birds and bees yet. You're not exposed to that, so you don't understand it. Let me ask you a question, going back to the R. Kelly thing real quick, but not leaving your story. Do you identify with these girls who are in the R. Kelly situation or even in the Bill Cosby or just the Me Too situation in general? Can you identify with the victims?
To a certain extent.
To an extent.
To a certain extent, because after a while, women, you got to have your own brain. You got to be smart enough to say, hey, this ain't right. This don't feel right.
Right. And
you got to speak up. But a lot of women are so aimed to please the man that they won't speak up and defend their own happiness to the point where they will let that man treat them like they don't matter, like they're not humans. And I don't agree with that. You feel me? I don't get that. Only because I've been through relationships. I've been, like, in September, I just buried my son's father.
Right.
And I spent 10 years in a relationship with this man. 10 years. And the only thing that he did in this whole relationship was cheat. But everything else, as far as the relationship and how it's supposed to go, he fell in the right place. He treated me, he loved me, he took care of me, he did all of that. But he just could not stop cheating. Right. And it was just like, okay, after now I have put him in the ground, I have come to realize that that was the man that loved me.
What made you feel that way, though?
Certain things. It was certain things that he knew about me that it's not another man in this world that I think that will ever not know about me.
Let me ask you a question. How do you identify love? Like, what is your definition of love?
My definition of love is compassion, understanding, loyalty, caring. It doesn't get no better than that.
When you say loyalty and the fact that he cheated on you, do you feel like that kind of like broke out, or did you overlook that context as far as?
I overlooked it because I was naive, just like these chicks with R. Kelly. I overlooked it when I was naive, but when I got mature, I couldn't overlook it no more.
You know, it's an interesting thing. Like, me and my wife was talking earlier, and I had said something to her. You know, we was having a conversation. I said, you gotta stop being so selfless. You need to start being more selfish. I said, as women, one of the biggest issues that women have is that y'all too selfless. Y'all give too much, and especially to men. Gentlemen, sorry, but I'm going to speak out and say it straight out. Y'all are too selfless where y'all give too much of yourselves to men. Y'all neglect yourselves too much. And a lot of times when women deal with depression or can't identify with themselves or identify with love is because they figure love, and their definition truly and deep inside them of love is pleasing a man. That's what comes down to it. And I told her, yo, you need to be more selfish. Start doing stuff for yourself. Start buying yourself. Take care of you.
It goes back to the biblical times, too. And in the biblical times, if you want to follow that, this is what we are women, especially black women, because black women are raised in the Bible, basically, to be submissive. And if it's not explained what submissive really means, then we get it misconstrued. That we're supposed to give our whole self. Because that's supposed to be being submissive. And that's not. Like, you know, when you say, how did I know that my son's father loved me when he was gone? Because I did not have to submit myself. The only reason why I say that the loyalty was gone is because even if you were out there cheating, you did not respect me. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I've never been married. I don't know how it feels to be married. Granted, I want to know that feeling.
Right.
If it doesn't come, I'm okay. If it comes,
absolutely.
Great. You feel me? That's how I'm at. But here's the thing, like if I have to, be submissive to my husband, that's what I'm gonna do. Mm. But I'm not gonna give my all to my husband. Mm. I'm not gonna give my happiness to my husband. And if my husband can't understand the things that make me happy and fulfill that for me, then he's not capable of being my husband, because I'm going to look at, like, that's just like you're married. So your wife going to look at what makes you down. What make my husband sad today? Because I got to bring him up tomorrow, right, from his sad place. So that's what I feel should go on in a relationship. And
let's see, like, going back to the R. Kelly situation, just in your situation, like, that's the issue I feel like a lot of women have, is that they constantly trying to build a man up, bring a man up. In that situation, how much of you lose? You know what I'm saying? You lose a lot of you in that situation, what you trying to give so much to your husband, bringing his spirits up, making him feel more superior, making him feel more comfortable. How much of in that do you actually lose? And when you think about the R. Kelly situation, when you talk about sex slaves and looking at young women, keeping them from speaking to other people, looking at other people, what I look at it is it's ego. It's ego and control. And a lot of men have that issue where it's ego and control, where they make you feel they don't feel superior unless they're in a controlling situation. So even when you speaking, it's like a lot less taught, especially, and we're gonna speak generally in a black home, because I can't really speak for what's taught and what's not taught in the white or Caucasian home or Asian or any other race home, because I never lived in one. But in the black home, you often are taught that you must be, your husband or the man is more superior, that you must put him on more of a pedestal, that you have to basically obey and listen to what he has to say. And then going back and dealing with some of the things that you did, the atrocity that you deal with, like you said, a pedophile. Because if he did that to an 8-year-old girl, I'm pretty sure he did that to someone else. Yeah. And continued on.
Yeah.
So what I got to ask you now is, what would be your advice to your 8-year-old self now, dealing with that situation?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. I did the right thing. I ran.
Absolutely. Do you feel like you should have said something to your parents earlier?
No.
You think it would have made a difference?
No.
Did you ever think about doing therapy or anything for like that? Or did you feel like you even need therapy to deal with that situation?
No, because I feel like it made me stronger.
Absolutely.
I feel like it made me stronger. And just like you said, like, it is a thing where the black woman has been raised to give more of herself. But it's like, when you speak of sex slaves, you can't be a slave. Like, it's all mind control. Everything is mind control. If a person wants you to think a certain way and you don't have a strong enough mind, you're going to think that way. If you have a strong mind, you're not. And you're going to constantly find yourself battling. You know what I mean? Debating.
Right.
Because you have your own mind.
Absolutely.
So I feel like I did the correct thing. I feel like, for a long time in my mind, I put that situation behind me until this R. Kelly thing came out. And I tried to side with those victims and I couldn't.
Why not?
Because I thought about my situation. Like I said, for a long time, I put that behind me. Because it wasn't like a pedophile situation. Well, it was a pedophile situation, but it wasn't a situation where I felt like I was taken advantage of. It was a situation where I could have been if I didn't think for myself. You know what I mean? It could have been a situation where this man could have said, I got some candy for you, and I got in the car and went with him.
Yeah, we'll never see you again.
And I'm not saying that I am better than anybody else. I'm just saying that I've been in a place where I've been naive, right, where I have been cheated on. And because this man keeps coming back and saying, I'm not going to cheat on you again.
You take him back.
You take him back.
But see, that's common. A lot of people and a lot of women have been in that scenario. That's a scenario that I feel like a lot of women have dealt with, where their significant others, their husbands, boyfriends, whatever, have cheated, and you take them back because you want to believe somebody changed. When the reality is, you don't know.
But you got to think about it when you think about these women with R. Kelly. You feel me? They want to believe what they seen on TV.
Yeah,
not what they're seeing in person.
But I agree, and that's why I always say, like, I never want to meet my idols. Like, I don't want to meet my idols. You know why? I always say I don't want to meet my idols because you're going to be disappointed. We all build up in our heads. Like, I don't know who your idol is. Like, one of my favorite rappers of all time is Jay-Z. I don't want to meet him. I don't want to meet him because you have this theory in your head. You have this image of this person built up in your head. Like, yo, and then when you meet that person, when they disappoint you, then you're crushed. In a lot of situations with these women, R. Kelly is something. He made a lot. One thing we can't separate is the man made a lot of great music. Like him, hate him, love what he does, don't. Okay, cool. Whatever you feel, great. But you can't take that away from him. Now, what the music reflect or what the true meaning behind music is, we can debate that later. We never know. We can all gonna have our thoughts on what we think. But truly, as a person that made music before, only the artist know what the true intentions was behind the song. However, what I will say is, R. Kelly did prey on naive young women who wasn't, and you can tell, weak-minded women. Even to his wife, Drea Kelly. She was weak-minded. I'm not trying to make them the victims like they did something wrong because they didn't. They didn't do anything wrong. They were preyed on by somebody who's seen a weakness in them. And that could be anybody. That could be me. That could be any person. You could be going to a store or buy a car, and a salesperson could see. I'm not comparing the situations, but just using it as a metaphor. A salesperson could see someone who don't really know what they're doing. Oh, I'm gonna take advantage of you. I'm gonna get you an extra $20,000. That don't make it right. It don't make it right. And R. Kelly should be held accountable for what he did. And the women, I get what you're saying. I don't think they should be made it felt like they're the ones that did something wrong in that situation.
The only thing I don't agree with is I feel like don't try to make that man be held accountable for something that everybody knew he was doing 20 years.
Let's get into it. Good point. Let's get into it because that's my interesting point. Let's get right into that. So we all heard about the sex tape. Dave Chappelle. All right, you shouldn't say that because listen, that's child pornography. Listen, stop telling people y'all watched it so y'all don't have it.
First came out, I watched it, and I was a kid. I was 13 years old, and I watched it, and I seen it was 3 scenes, and all the first 2 scenes did not bother me because them women looked like they were grown women. The only scene that bothered me was that last scene with that girl, and it's Pop Sewing with the bitch. Excuse my language, with the girl peeing on the floor for him. And that's turning him on.
We'll see, once again.
So, when I watched this at 13 and now I'm 37, and you want to prosecute him, I don't agree with that.
Why not?
You should have, because he was making the white people money back then.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about that. Okay, so one of the issues I do have is that everybody, okay, let's take him off, let's mute him now. Y'all knew about this back in, 2002 when it happened. Why didn't y'all mute him then? Not saying that now you shouldn't do nothing, but I think people got to take accountability that we all, and me included, we all dropped the ball on that.
Now,
we all dropped the ball on that. Now, you said at 8 years old, you had a body of more of an older woman. Now, these girls nowadays do have, young girls have bodies of older women.
They do.
But once again, just because your body's fully developed don't mean your mind isn't. And when you're dealing with an older and more mature person, they're more able to convince you to do something that as a grown woman, if somebody want to pee on you, you're probably like, oh, hell no, you know? You a young child, you see a celebrity, a person you probably idolize, thinking he can change your life. Well, I'm going to do whatever I can to make him happy. Think about this. As an older woman, you just spoke about, and often women talk about the whole idea of making their man happy, making their husband happy, doing whatever, lifting their husband up. Now, you think about 13 and 14-year-old little girls who probably looking at it like, let me try to make him happy. He's a celebrity, he's rich. I want to do whatever I can do to make him happy. They may have been grossed out. They may not have been comfortable with what they were doing. But you know what? I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make him happy. Because think about this. Grown women do it every day. Even more mature women do it. So just imagine the mind of a child whose minds have truly not developed yet. They don't understand the concept of what they're doing.
But that goes back to having your own mind.
But at 13, 14, you really don't. You really don't. Just think about it. 13 or 14, you really just don't have that mind. If you go to a 13 or 14-year-old, ask them
maybe I just was a different type of 13, 14-year-old girl.
But see, you had different circumstances too. You made have grown up and matured more faster. 13, 14, I would probably say me too. I probably would have more mature mind to know not to do certain things. But you got to think about it. Different people, different circumstances, different living arrangements, different kind of things that went through could cause you to not develop that easy. And once again, let's say you dealing with somebody who came from foster care, who parents didn't really love him. Yo, I'm going to attach that, and he sees that as a predator, and he's trying to jump all over it.
That's just like the girl who met him at his trial. Like, you met him at a trial for him being a pedophile. At some point, you don't try to do no kind of homework or research to find out if this is really true. Fuck what he on trial for. Like, you just go on and go with him, and then you mean to tell me that, see, the last chick, the older chick, she told on everybody because she let everybody know that this man wasn't holding these women hostage. They can leave at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So you only there because you don't have your own brain.
But that's the thing. Interesting thing about hostage in prison is there's two different types of prisons. There's physical prison and mental prison. Mental prisons are more difficult to escape than a physical prison ever will. Physical prison, you can chop around the window sills or the little grates in the ceiling or the floor and crawl out.
Okay.
Mental prison, it's not that simple. Once somebody get in your head and make you think that you cannot leave, and that's the thing about mind that people need to understand. Your mind is a powerful thing. No matter how old you are, how strong-minded you are, think about it. Your mind is a very powerful thing.
And people, if you don't take control of your own mind, then it's going to be like that. Because you have to take control of your own mind. Like you said, it is a powerful thing. And people should not be able to just get into your head to make you think anything.
But that's the thing, though. With these victims, I feel like that's exactly what happened. R. Kelly, like you say, oh, they could leave. And I'm pretty sure they could. But if I'm sitting here constantly, if I played on your psyche so much that you feel like you cannot leave without me, that this is love. Him pissing on them is love. Him making them piss in a bucket in a room is love. If that's become their definition of love, it's not too easy to leave. And you think about it in the context of what you went through with your baby dad, God rest his soul. Some women will be like, yo, well, you should have took him back. You shouldn't have took him back. You chose to stay with him. You chose. No. That was your definition of love. And I'm not saying you were mentally prison. Mentally, you was to a point where you attached to him where you was like, yo, it's not that easy to walk away from this relationship. This is love. I love this man. This man means so much to me. And though the outside world might not understand it.
I don't think it was that.
No, you don't think so?
Mm-mm.
So what do you think about it?
I just think that it was the fact that I wanted to believe him every time.
But that's the same thing with these victims. They want to believe what he's saying to them is correct. He's telling them, no, man, don't listen to what they telling you.
You're right.
I love you.
You're right.
I might smack you around, but I still love you. Think about domestic violence victims. A dude will beat the hell out of a woman and then turn around and tell him, oh, no, I love you. A dude will cheat on a woman right in front of him and then tell him, oh, you didn't see that. And they'll tell them that to a point where you start to believe it. You start questioning your own eyes.
Yeah.
So when you think about those things, then you got to look at these victims and say, hold on. Maybe they are being forced there. Maybe they are slaves. Maybe they may not have chains on, because that's the thing, people. We're so visual. We're thinking, oh, they have chains on them. They chained to a pipe. Mentally, they are enslaved. But that brings you to a whole nother case. Where are the parents? When should parents start talking to their kids about sex and try to help them understand what love is and how to identify with when somebody's mistreating them?
Well, being a parent in the Black community of teenage boys, sometimes it's really hard to talk to your children about sex, because sometimes they might dibble and dabble because the internet and there's so much stuff. Yes, the internet has killed our whole society, because now the internet is teaching our kids more stuff than we can even get to as parents.
We don't have time to.
Yes, by the time we get to it, it's like, damn, they already seen it on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, we can't teach them. So it's hard to teach our kids, what it is. So me, like, my parenting skills, I'm a little different. I parent real.
Absolutely.
I parent in real time.
Right.
So if, like I said, I lost my son's father.
Mm-hmm.
So my son is 14.
Mm.
He's losing a father at 14 to street violence.
Mm.
he doesn't even really technically understand street violence. He just knows that it looks cool from the videos and the YouTube posts and all that stuff. Mm. But this ain't the cool part about street violence that I'm trying to show you about. Mm. So he goes out after his father gets murdered and gets drunk at 14. Mm. I can't control it because I didn't know he was out doing it until it was done. But now I have to handle it like a real parent. So guess what? You're going to throw that liquor back up like you did. You're going to clean your room up. Mm-hmm. You're going to get up. You're going to go clean yourself up. And then you're going to take your ass to school. Because you still got to learn.
Now, let me touch on that real quick. Real quick, we're going to touch on that. We're going to segue to something else that we talked about we want to get into. Real quick, we're going to close out the R. Kelly section of this podcast, this episode, with this. Listen to what Tynee Tia just said. At 14, her son went out there and got drunk. Now, a lot of people and viewers say, well, why these parents didn't know what these young girls were doing and where they was and stuff. Think about this as a parent. If you're a parent, you understand. You give your child a certain much of rope. What they choose to do with that rope is very difficult. What they choose to do with that rope is their decision. It's very difficult to really kind of patrol and understand what they're doing when they're outside your vision. The only thing you got is trust. Yeah. So when you look at these girls, and if you're looking at the parents and say, well, why they didn't know or why they didn't step up, you don't always know what your child's doing. And like we all like to pass judgment, like, oh, you're supposed to know or she's supposed to know. You don't. My mom don't know everything I was doing when she let me out of her sight. And she'll tell you to this day, she didn't know. Only thing she could hope was that I was making the right decisions. Yep. So if you're ready to make judgment on these parents or any of these people, make sure you understand the true facts and stop being so quick to judgment. But let's go on to that for a second, because you talked about your son and your son's father dying in violence. And one of the big issues we're having right now is the violence in the streets, the murders. Yesterday, the day we're recording this, the day before, I got a phone call from somebody, and we were setting up to do the podcast the day before, and somebody called me and was like, they just identified the people who killed your cousin, which was about 2 years ago, who murdered my cousin. Before you stepped on the caveman, you walked in, and if you're wondering why she's wearing sunglasses, was because you just had a situation unfortunate situation that led violence. Talk to me about violence in the inner city, in the black neighborhood. What are your thoughts on that?
It's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid. Like, and I say it's stupid because, excuse me, y'all, but I might get a little teary-eyed, but it's just stupid because I don't understand how we as a black people gotta keep harming each other. But then we go on these social media sites and we out here in these streets and we say, support Black Lives Matter, and we ain't even mattering to ourselves. Like, I just had to watch my sister make the hardest decision of her entire life. I would not want to walk a minute, let alone a mile, in her shoes right now. Right. All because of street violence, black on black crime. And I get shaken up because I've lived in an all-white neighborhood before. And I see white people living in their neighborhood, getting along, borrowing stuff from each other, looking out for each other. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see them murdering each other. You don't see them, I don't know. I just don't understand it.
I don't understand either. Like, to give you a second real quick, and before we close this episode out, one of the issues when it was brought to me about my cousin, and I'm finding his murder was, but y'all knew this 2 years ago. Y'all knew who killed him 2 years ago. And how I know
was his childhood friend.
Yeah, and how I knew y'all knew this 2 years ago, because a few days after he was murdered, I heard people talking about it. Now, that I know it was true who they said was, no, I don't. I'm not out there. But people knew about it. We constantly talk about Black Lives Matter. We constantly talk about the issues in the black community, issues with the police department. And yes, there is an issue with that. However, there's an issue in the black community and us not supporting each other and truly standing up for each other. One of the issues I have with this whole R. Kelly situation is, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether they want to defend R. Kelly or have an opinion of disgrace for R. Kelly. But what my issue is with the Bill Cosby, the R. Kellys, when a black person does something that's gruesome or victimizes people, is when we're supporting these people who are doing things to victims. We're supporting these people, and we use that as a way of supporting people. But what about these kids who are actually going out to college? What about these kids who are coming out of these inner cities and doing positive things? At what point are we going to stop spreading negative news on our Facebook, on our social media, on our Twitter, on our Instagram? And at what point are we going to start promoting something positive, promoting the positive things that happen in neighborhoods, promoting the positive things that people are doing? I get it. Negativity is at an all-time high and is very valuable to you. But if you continuously promote the negativity, then how do you once again talk about stay woke or Black Lives Matter when the only pictures you're posting are of naked black women? You talk about uplifting the black woman, but post naked pictures of black women. You talk about Black Lives Matter only when cops are killing them. But there's no speaking of it when one of our own get murdered by one of us. We gotta really get serious about what's really going on here. And when you sit here reflecting on this episode, when you're thinking about this episode and the things we talked about and what happened with the R. Kelly situation, I want you to take a good look at yourself. And ask yourself one question. Are you part of the solution or part of the problem? Now, me personally, like I said, I'm guilty. Because even as everyone else, I heard about the R. Kelly sex crimes way back. I didn't heard about the Aaliyah thing. Now, though I couldn't make a huge dent in it, I also could have chose not to support his music and support a person that did what he did.
Yeah. But we all did.
We all got to take responsibility for our actions. To all people who are lost in the inner city to senseless violence, our prayers are with you and we hope you rest in peace. But at some point, people, we got to make a change. And we got to stop this. Because the nonsense is going on. Let's stop supporting negativity and start uplifting positivity. I'm Alan the Great. This is the Past to Present podcast. My co-host, Tynee Tia. You got anything you want to say before we sign this one off?
Before we sign off, I just want to say, always ask yourself in the mirror, what do you tell yourself to sleep at night?
Powerful words. Thank you, Tynee Tia, for coming on.
Thank you
telling
for
us
having
your
me.
strong story and for breaking that news. We pray for you as well that you as a survivor that you heal from what you had experienced 8 years old. You or no other person should ever had to deal with that or experience what you experienced or even see that happen. And what we need to do, if we're going to talk about the R. Kelly thing, instead of muting R. Kelly, let's figure out how we can help not only the victims of R. Kelly, but the other victims out here don't have voices or who are being victimized towards people. Because there's R. Kellys in every community, in every city. Well, some of them are living right next door to you. So
I
let's
honestly
deal
feel
with
like
those
R. Kelly is a victim too. I don't support what he did, but I also feel like he needs help.
Absolutely, Erica. And to all victims out there who are victims to domestic violence, I wanted to give you a number, 1-800-799-SAFE. That is the national hotline for domestic violence. You hit that number up. If you need help, please reach out to that number and get the help you need. You're not alone in your fight. You're not alone in your battle. Like I said, there's victims everywhere. Please seek help. You are strong enough to get through this. You are more deserving than what you're dealing with. Don't settle for this. Don't allow yourself to become or continue to be a victim. Once again, the number is 1-800-799-SAFE. Call that number right now if you need or you know of someone who needs help with domestic violence. Also, hit me up at pasttopresentpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about this episode and your thoughts. You always can hit me up on Facebook. Keep in touch with me, Past Present at Facebook, and let me know what you think about the show. What do you think about the surviving R. Kelly situation? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Instagram, Alan the Great. Tynee Tia, give me your information.
I'm comedian Tynee on Instagram, Tynee Tia Tate at Instagram, on Facebook, or Tynee Tate on Facebook. I got 2 Facebook pages. March 3rd, Baltimore meets Delaware. Come on out. Tickets $15. You can hit comedian Tynee Tia up on Instagram. You can get tickets. You can get Island the Great tickets. Like, listen, it's going down. We just here to make the city laugh.
And we're going to have a special announcement that I'm going to say on the show in regards to the Baltimore meets Delaware comedy show. But you got to stay in tune to hear what I'm going to put with the Past to Present podcast is going to do to help you out to make sure that you're in the building. Check out next week's show to find out. And if you know anybody want to check out the comedy show, it's going to be an epic show. I'll be in the building. Hit Tynee
Tiny's going to be in the building, of course.
And if you want Tynee Tia, if you think Tynee Tia should be the new co-host of the Past and Present podcast, I need to hear from you, audience.
Tynee Tia.
Vote for Tynee Tia.
Vote for
Hashtag Tynee Tia on Facebook and Instagram.
Co-host Tynee Tia.
Absolutely. This has been the Past and Present podcast. And as always, I got one last thing to say to you. Stay tuned. Peace.
Stay tuned.